Righty ho, so we're getting ready now to put the barrels onto the crankcases over the pistons. So we've got the barrels back from the engineers where they've been rebored. They've been rebored to 20 thou, and they seem to have done a nice job there. And then as part of that, they've also skimmed the head, skimmed the top of the barrels. And so the cylinder liners are now in the same level as the top of the barrels, which I think is fine. I think there's a sort of bit of a leeway on these, but don't quote me on this exactly as to whether how far the liners can either be above or below the line of the actual barrels. But in our case, now it's been skimmed, they're all dead flat, and so I think we're fine. You know, if they're sunk down too low, then you can't get enough crush on the flame ring on the gasket, and so they can blow. If the liners are too high, then you'll crush that, and that'll be great. You won't, the cylinders will be sealed, but then you can have oil leaks because, of course, the gasket isn't pushed down hard enough around the sides, around the oil holes. Right, as part of skimming the top of the barrels, it's exposed this sort of, I'm not sure, bronze ring or whatever it is in the middle of the liner. Now, the engineer said that was a sign of really good liners. He said that modern liners don't tend to have this sort of sandwich of sort of steel, and I'm not quite sure what this was, and then steel the other side. But he said that's a sign, you know, that they're good. He said some of these modern ones, they don't have that, and they can wear out very quickly, so that's good. So yeah, we've had all that done. I've got it back. I've washed everything. I've cleaned out the oil ways that they go straight down through the barrels and come out the other end and simply drain back into the crankcase. So they allow the oil from around the valves in the cylinder head to drain down into the crankcase. God blimey, someone at the door just frightened the life out of me. It might go on my phone now as well. Right, so that's been done. Also, I took the tappets down to the engineers. Yeah, that's the door buzzing on my phone. And what he's done is just polished them. He said they're fine. He's just given them a polish, and so they'll be going back in. And I've labelled each one as to which hole they go back in and which way round they go. So hopefully, if that's still legible, I should be able to put them back in exactly the same place they came out of, which again isn't essential, but it just helps to stop any excess wear. Right, then I've got some cable ties ready, because when we put the tappets through the tappet block, obviously I would just want to keep falling back out again. So put some cable ties around to stop them falling back in. You can use rubber bands or whatever, but you just need something to stop the tappets, you know, once falling back into the block. Then I've got a couple of pieces of wood and there to hold the pistons up. We'll come back to that. Got a new cylinder base gasket. I've got some new cylinder base nuts. It's always nice to do that. It just, you know, it's a little thing. It just makes a difference. If you've had all the engine blasted and everything, then you might as well do that as well, because otherwise they can stick out a bit like a sore thumb if they're all old and a bit rusty. Then I've invested in these new Clive Scarfe piston rings, which are hinged in sort of 3 places. So there's 4 segments, and then with a clip on the end. Because the problem with the Trident is there's very, very little room to get the piston ring clamps in and get them back out again, more importantly, as the barrels go down over the pistons. And so these are the ones, these should be the best. These are going to be replacing my one hinged rings, compressors. And the advantage is that also these new compressors are considerably wider. I think, as I said before, the trouble with these ones is they only just go over the rings, and if you nudge them out of position, the ring, can pop out from the bottom without, it happens when you don't notice. And of course, when you're juggling cylinders and that, it can easily happen. It's a bit of a nightmare. These are wider. The problem is you can't have them too wide, as in standard piston rings, compressors, because you simply won't get them back out from the barrel, because when these go down, there's very little room left between the barrels and the top of the crankcase. Now, as you can see, we've set the engine with the two outer ones up, which is what it recommends in the workshop manual. So we're going to put the barrels down over them, then we're going to turn the engine forwards, I think it is, and bring the center piston up and try and get the rings over that. But obviously, as the barrels goes down, there's less and less room, and we can't bring the piston all the way up because obviously these will come back out the bottom of the barrels. So it's a bit of an awkward juggling act, but we'll give it a go. We'll get there. It's just going to take us some time. I've got those two bits of wood I've got, so they'll be going underneath the pistons. Difficult to do with one hand. They'll go underneath these outer pistons just to hold them in place when we lower the barrels down, and hopefully be able to get the center piston on without help, because in the manual it says get someone to give you a hand with the barrels. I might go and ask a neighbour, but it's a lovely day and I think everyone's out and they don't want to be in a basement messing about with engines. So yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's mentioned most things. Obviously we cleaned all the oil ways out. I've cleaned all the threads. I made sure they're totally, because those threads are so important, these threads, and they're all tickety-boo. Any sign of damage to these threads, because obviously that's what the cylinder head is torqued down on, and so it's very vital that these threads are okay and they're all checked, and all the liners are checked. There's no damage, there's no chip liners, everything is now ready to go back together. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm getting ready to put the barrels on, so I'll put the camera on, which I can probably regret because I hate doing this job. So we've got the two outer pistons at the top, centre one at the bottom. We've got these wonderful clips on, piston ring clamps. We've got the gasket on. We've got two pieces of wood holding the outer pistons up. Oh, and by the way, I've also done the threads, clean the threads on the cylinder base so that we can get the nuts on. Very important. Okay, I don't think I can put it off any longer. It's time to try and get the barrels on. So we've got the barrels. Oh, I put well seal on, of course. A lot of people put these on dry. I think it recommends putting them on dry. The gasket, the base gasket, but I've always used well seal. I've never had a problem, never had a leak. Barrels are going on, so you've got like a square side, square front, and a curved bit. The curved bit goes to the back, the square corner goes to the front. Just helps to get the barrels on the right way round. Nothing worse. So easily done, because you can put the barrels on the wrong way round, and then you've got to take, finish. Oh, great! And then you suddenly realise you've got to take the whole lot off again. Right, let's get those down over the pistons if we can. This is the easy bit, of course. Okay. Right, they're well down now over the piston ring, so I can take the clamps off now. These wonderful, I say wonderful, I can't get them off now. Have to twizzle them around a bit to the right position if I can. There we go. And because they're hinged, I should be able to get them off very simply. Right, so there we go. Oh, there's one piston left. Oh, it seems to be the centre one, which is right down there somewhere. So I'm going to keep on going down. Okay. Right, we're meeting the centre piston now. So we're just starting to go down over that centre piston. So this is where it gets tricky. So I'm going to have to take the wood out now, because obviously the barrels are now hitting the wood. So that's got to come out, and I've got to try and get the barrels to go down. You know, I've got to keep them straight because the wood's going out. And at the same time, somehow get that over the centre piston. I'm hoping against hope that these new piston ring clamps do what they say they do, and that means that I can get that. I can virtually put these down the whole way. And still get the clamp out. That's good. What I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and turn the engine slightly to bring that centre piston up. Just going now. I can just see the oil holes still on the centre piston. So I think we're about over the rings, but not fully yet. There. There, right, I think that we're now over the rings on the centre piston as well. So what I'm going to try and do now is take that clamp off, and let's see if these clamps are as good as they're advertised, as it were, and that we can get the clamp off, even though it's right down there inside the crankcase. Come on. Come on, there, it's unhooked. Right, I use the magnet, and because it's all jointed, I'm just putting the wrong end now. So I get the clip end out. Here it is. Right, I've got the clip end out, and because of all those, it's all jointed. There we go, and there it pulls out. Hey, and yes, we have all. That's fantastic. I'll tell you what, having these piston ring clamps absolutely makes all the difference. Fantastic. I don't know why I didn't buy a set years ago. Right. Right, okay, so we've got to start, we've got to put the barrels on, but not all the way down, because we have to get the cylinder base nuts on before the cylinders go all the way down. Otherwise there's not room over the top of the cylinder base studs, to get the nuts on. Take my gloves off for this because it's a bit fiddly. So we've got new washers. And then we've got these new nuts. There we go. Okay, and I'll carry on doing that. I'll go around, there's 10 of these nuts to go on. I'll go around and do that. And then we'll come back and get the barrel fully down. A couple of things I might have forgotten to mention was, of course, we put engine assembly lube on the tappets before I put those in, and I also put engine assembly lube on the cam lobes of the camshafts and on the feet, the bottom feet of the tappets, before I put the barrels on. Okay, so I've got all the cylinder base nuts on. So what I'm going to do now is tap it down. It can go fully home now because we've got all the nuts on. And this is another reason why it's important to have done those threads, cylinder base threads, because I'm now going to carry on just spinning these down by hand. And if I couldn't do that, then I'd have to put it's difficult getting the spanner over the top of the nuts. And what we'd have to do is put it down bit by bit and do some nuts up and then put it further down and so on, which is a bit of a faff. But if the nuts all spin freely on the studs, as they do, then we can get them down, put the thing down, spin the nuts down, and then finish off with a spanner, tightening them up. Okay, they're fully down, and I've got my tri-core spanner available, I think, from just about any sort of British spares shop. It's got this serrated sort of multi-faced spanner which goes over these base nuts. It's a matter of sort of judgment, and on these cases I think it's pretty tight basically. Okay, so I'm just going, they're down, they're not tight yet, but I'm just going to turn the engine over because I can't wait any longer, just to check everything's smooth. And it feels really smooth. I don't know if you can see the pistons going up and down on camera, but Very good. Just checking that there's no score marks, which would indicate either a broken or unseated piston ring. That's all very lovely. There's something lovely about turning an engine over and it's just, you know, it just feels so good. Just feels so good. Great. Right, I'm going to just go around and torque these up to their prescribed torque. I just do them up PDT, pretty damn tight. Oh, that's so very nice. That's so very nice. Great, so barrels are on. I'm just checking we've got tappets going up and down as well, which of course they are. So, fabuloso. It doesn't matter if the tappets don't go down. You know, I've put that engine assembly lube on, so it's a bit sticky. So, you know, if they don't fall straight down, don't worry about it. As long as they are going up and down, and as long as they are moving, that's what really matters. Great, great. Barrels on.